Hello children, this is class 8 biology, chapter 2 reproduction in plants, part 2. Myself, Mrs. Sonam Singh, presenting you the same. In the previous video, we have learned about the asexual methods of reproduction in plants like binary fission, budding, fragmentation, and many others. We even learned about vegetative propagation, in which the plants were grown without using the seeds. We even had few points learned about the tissue culture. Now, we are going to study about the sexual reproduction in flowering plants. All flowering plants and some non-flowering plants, such as mosses, reproduce sexually. A flower is the main attractive and colorful part of the plant. It bears both male and female reproductive organs of the plant that contain the male gamete called pollen and the female gamete called egg or ovum. Let us read about the parts of a flower. A typical flower consists of 4 whorls, calyx consisting of sepals, corolla consisting of petals, androecium consisting of stamens, and gynoecium consisting of pistil. All the 4 whorls are arranged on a flattened tip called thalamus. The thalamus is attached to the main stem by means of stalk called pedicel. The male reproductive parts of a flower are called as a stamen. Each stamen consists of anther and filament. An anther bears numerous pollen grains which produce the male gametes, and filament supports the anther above the female reproductive organ. The female reproductive organs are called carpel or pistil. It consists of 3 parts called stigma, style, and ovary. The stigma is the sticky landing site for the pollen grains. The style is a tube that leads down to the ovary. The ovary contains ovules that develop into seeds. The first 2 whorls, calyx and corolla, do not take part in a reproduction and are known as accessory whorls. Now, let us study about the process of pollination. What is pollination? It is the movement of a pollen from the anther, which is the male part, to the stigma, which is the female part of the flower and contains the egg. The pollination is of 2 types, self and cross-pollination. Self-pollination. In this, the pollen is transferred to the stigma of the same flower or flowers born to the same plant. In cross-pollination, the pollen is transferred to the flowers of another plants of the same species through some agents of pollination like wind, insects, water, etc. Depending upon the agents of pollination, the pollination can be categorized as insect pollination, wind pollination, and water pollination. Let us read about the characteristics of each plant. Insect pollinated plants. In this, the pollen is sticky or spiky to stick to the insect's body. The petals are brightly colored and scented to attract the insects. The stamens are inside the flower so that the insects will brush past them and pick up the pollen. The stigma is sticky so that when the insects brush past, the pollen grain sticks to it. The sticky, sweet nectar is to attract the insects. For wind-pollinated flowers, the pollen grains are very small and light. They occur in very large numbers. The anthers are exposed to the wind so that pollen can easily be blown away. Stigma are feathery to catch pollen carried in the wind. The petals are small and green as there is no need to attract the insects. They don't have any scent or nectary. Hydrophily is the another name for the plants which are undergoing water pollination. It is the mode of pollination or transfer of pollen grains through the agency of water. Example, Zoostera, Vallisneria, etc. In these plants, the flowers are small and inconspicuous. Nectar and odor are absent. Pollen grains are light and unwettable due to presence of mucilage cover. The stigma is long, sticky, but unwettable. What is the difference between the asexual and sexual reproduction? In asexual reproduction, single parent is involved, whereas in sexual reproduction, two parents are involved. In asexual reproduction, no gamete formation and fertilization occurs. In sexual reproduction, both formation of gamete and fertilization occurs. Asexual reproduction occurs by mitosis. Sexual reproduction occurs by both mitosis and meiosis. In asexual reproduction, the individuals are genetically identical, but in sexual reproduction, individuals show variations. Now, after pollination, the process of fertilization comes up, which has the following steps. The pollen grains fall on the stigma, and by absorbing water and nutrients from the stigma, they germinate to produce two nuclei, tube nucleus and germinative nucleus. The tube nucleus forms the pollen tube, and the germinative nucleus further divides into two male nuclei. The pollen tube grows through the style and finally reaches the ovule of the ovary through micropyle. One of the two male nuclei present in the pollen tube fuses with the egg cell and forms a zygote, which further develops into an embryo. The other male nucleus fuses with the polar nuclei of ovule to form the endosperm, which nourishes the developing embryo. These are the assignment questions which needs to be done in the notebooks. Thank you.